They invited her to humiliate her, but when she walked in, no one could look her in the eye. Logan leaned over his glass. "No way," he whispered. "She actually came." Laughter buzzed under the chandeliers. A friend snorted. "She thinks this is real?" Logan smirked. "It's real enough to watch her squirm." Then the double doors opened. Heels, steady, slow, Evelyn Monroe entered. Dark velvet, silver earrings, not a word spoken, but the room held its breath. Someone near the back scoffed. "Isn't that the janitor?" No one replied. She wasn't supposed to come. She wasn't supposed to look like that. And in 20 minutes, this whole room would wish they'd never laughed. The apartment was quiet. Light from the window spilled across a worn oak table. On it, a teacup, a leather-bound notebook, and Evelyn's hands, steady with a fountain pen. She wrote slowly, thoughtfully. "Dear Mrs. Calderon, you have every right to stay in your home. The law is on your side." Stacks of letters lay beside her, each addressed by hand. Not emails, not typed memos. Letters for people who had no one else. Her coat hung by the door, one pair of shoes beneath it. No clutter, no noise, just order, just peace. She folded the letter, slipped it into an envelope, then reached for the next name on the list. This was her life now, unseen but not undone. And while the world forgot her title, she never forgot who she was. There was a time when students filled lecture halls just to hear her speak. Professor Evelyn Monroe, the first black woman to lead the legal ethics department at NYU. Her voice was calm, precise. She didn't raise it to control a room. She didn't need to. Ideas followed her. Minds opened in her presence. One photo still hung above her desk. A younger Evelyn, robe, podium, dozens of graduates clapping to behind her. They used to call her the spine of justice. Now the title was gone, but the spine remained. She never chased spotlight. And when it faded, she didn't try to hold it. She just kept showing up. For the people who'd been left behind, the world moved on. But Evelyn kept writing, teaching, protecting. Not because anyone asked her to, but because it was right. Long before the letters, Evelyn stood in courtrooms. Not for power, not for headlines, but for people no one listened to. Tenants from East Harlem. Mothers evicted without notice. Factory workers poisoned by the company they trusted. She was the one who said no more. There was the case against Carrion Foods, a billion-dollar corporation that dumped us in near public housing. Evelyn found the loophole, closed it, won. No cameras, no front-page photo, just a quiet settlement and clean water. When others walked away, she stayed, not because she had to, because she believed they mattered. Some called her radical, others unreasonable. But in every neighborhood she fought for, they called her something else, ours. She read the invitation twice. Embossed paper, gold trim, Logan's signature at the bottom. She knew what it was. Not a gesture of respect, a performance, a setup. People whispered, "She doesn't belong there." Why would they invite her? But Evelyn didn't flinch. She placed the envelope in a drawer, folded her scarf, then checked the seams of her old navy dress. "If they want to see me," she said softly, "then they'll see all of me. Not who they remember. Not who they pretend she never was, but who she still is." The irony wasn't lost on her. Being mocked by the children of those she once defended. Still, she chose to go, not to prove them wrong, but to remind them of what's right. The ballroom glowed with crystal and gold. Chatter filled the air until Evelyn stepped inside. Silence slipped through the crowd like cold wind. Eyes turned, necks twisted, smirks appeared. A woman near the bar nudged her friend. Who let her in? Evelyn walked slowly, back straight, hands calm, eyes forward. She passed tables dressed in linen and silver. No one greeted her. No one moved to make room. She didn't stop. She didn't shrink. Every step was quiet. But heavy. Whispers followed her like shadows. Too plain, too proud, too black, too much for a room built on image. She reached an empty corner, took a breath, and then someone laughed. A waiter passed. A hand bumped his tray. Too sudden to be an accident. A glass of red wine tipped. It splashed down Evelyn's dress. Slow, deep, staining, gasps, but no apologies. The waiter froze, eyes wide. Before he could speak, a woman waved him off. "She's fine. Keep moving." Evelyn looked down. The fabric clung to her thigh. Still warm, still wet. She reached for a napkin on the nearest table. No one offered theirs. A man nearby sipped his drink. Another smiled without smiling. She dabbed the spot quietly. No drama, no scene. But behind her silence, the room grew colder. She wasn't surprised. This was never about spilled wine. It was about who they thought deserved dignity, and who didn't. Victoria Shaw stood by the champagne tower, all diamonds and posture. She saw Evelyn across the room, then walked over, slow and sharp like stilettos on glass. "I have to say," she began, voice sweet, eyes cold, "I admire your confidence, wearing that dress." So a few guests chuckled. Evelyn didn't blink. Victoria's gaze dropped to the wine stain. "Red navy? Who cares, right? When you've got nothing to lose." The words cut clean. Not loud, just loud enough. She turned and walked away, trailing scent and silence. Evelyn stayed still, one hand holding the napkin, the other brushing the front of her dress. Around her glasses clinked. But no one looked her in the eye. She set the napkin down and kept standing. At the head table, Logan tilted his glass, watching it swirl. His friend leaned in, grinning. "You really invited her? Thought that was a joke." Logan didn't smile. "She showed up, didn't she?" The friend laughed. "Bet she thinks it's legit. Like real recognition." Logan's eyes followed Evelyn across the room, still standing, still silent. "She used to walk into courtrooms like she owned them," he said, voice low. "Now she can't even get a seat." His words weren't loud, but they were sharp. "I mean, look at her." He tapped the rim of his glass. "Still pretending she belongs." But behind the smirk something flickered. Not amusement, not pride, a shadow of something else. Recognition? Guilt? He looked away. A child's cry broke through the music, high-pitched, lost. A little girl, no older than 6, wandered between tables, eyes wide, hands trembling. No one moved. Phones stayed in purses, drinks stayed full. Evelyn stepped forward. She knelt, lowering herself to the child's level. "Hey," she said gently, "what's your name?" Tears streamed down the girl's cheeks. Evelyn offered her hand. The girl took it. They walked together toward the front. 2 rows in, a woman stood up, mother, frantic. The girl ran into her arms. The mother didn't look at Evelyn, not even a nod. Evelyn turned back. Guests sipped, murmured, avoided her gaze. One man raised an eyebrow. "Nice move," he muttered. "Always on brand." She sat down, alone. Helping didn't change a thing, but she would still help. "She's always performing," Victoria said, just loud enough. 2 women beside her leaned in. "That little rescue act?" she added. "So convenient." Evelyn sat nearby, still, hands folded, face calm. "She does this everywhere," Victoria continued. "Pretends she's some kind of martyr. It's exhausting." No one corrected her. No one pushed back. They didn't need to. The message had landed. It wasn't about the child, or the wine, or the dress. It was about the way Evelyn existed. Unbothered, uninvited, unapologetic. Victoria sipped her drink. "Truth is, some people never learn when they're not wanted." Evelyn heard it, all of it. But she didn't move. Silence can be louder than pride. And tonight she would let silence speak. No one offered her a seat, so Evelyn stood, still, steady, near the edge of the room. The program dragged on. Speeches, toasts, laughter that didn't reach her. Then the MC stepped up, smiling too wide. "We'd like to hear a few words from one of our more unexpected guests tonight." He turned toward her. "Ms. Evelyn Monroe, would you care to say something?" Heads turned. A few chuckled. This wasn't an honor. It was bait. A man near the stage whispered, "This should be fun." Someone clapped. Sarcastic, loud. Evelyn didn't move. The mic waited. The room waited. And behind it all, Logan watched, arms folded. She looked at the MC, then at the crowd, and slowly she stepped forward. Evelyn reached the steps, then stopped. She looked at the mic, then at the room full of stares, smirks, and silence. "I think I'll pass," she said quietly. The MC blinked. A few people laughed. "She's nervous," someone whispered. "Of course she is." Victoria leaned into Logan. "Didn't think she'd choke this fast." Logan didn't answer. Evelyn turned and walked back to her spot. No apology, no explanation, just grace. The irony settled across the room. The woman they mocked for showing up was now mocked for walking away. They saw weakness. She chose control. And while they believed they'd won this moment, none of them noticed. She was still listening, still watching, still deciding when to speak. Near the back, an older man adjusted his glasses. His eyes followed Evelyn as she sat down. Something in her voice, her posture. It tugged at a memory. He leaned toward his wife. "That's her," he whispered. "That's Professor Monroe." His wife frowned. "Monroe? From NYU?" He nodded slowly. "She stayed after class, helped me through ethics when no one else did. She's the reason I graduated." Across the room he watched others laugh at her. He didn't. His jaw tightened. That woman built people while they tore her down. The whispers began to spread. One guessed, then another. Fragments of recognition. She wasn't just someone, she was someone they knew but had chosen to forget. And now, piece by piece, the truth started pulling at the seams of their pride. The man stood now, unable to stay silent. "She defended me," he said, voice rough but steady. 20 years ago, I was accused of something I didn't do." A few guests turned. He looked straight at Evelyn. "She read every line of my case file, stayed past midnight, fought when no one else would. She didn't just get the charges dropped." He paused. "She gave me my life back." Evelyn didn't move, but her eyes met his, and held. Whispers grew louder. Someone nearby asked, "Is that true?" Another voice added, "She helped my cousin, tenants' rights case years back." The tension in the room shifted. Judgment started to soften. Not fully, but something cracked. People who once laughed were now remembering, not just who she was, but what she had done for them. Logan sat still, glass untouched, his eyes locked on Evelyn, not amused, not annoyed, just focused. She wasn't speaking. She didn't have to. He noticed her hands, calm, folded in her lap, the slow, even breath, the upright spine, not defiant, just rooted. She wasn't trying to reclaim the room. She never lost it. Around him, people whispered, stories surfaced, faces shifted, but Logan stayed quiet. A memory flickered. A guest lecture. A woman at the front of the room, clear voice, tough questions, no tolerance for shortcuts, his first year in law school, her words that stuck. He blinked, then looked away. For the first time that night, Logan wasn't watching her out of control, he was remembering her in command. Victoria moved fast, heels sharp against marble. She stepped in front of Evelyn without warning. "You've had your moment," she said flatly. "It's time to leave." Evelyn looked at her, no surprise, no fear. "I don't think anyone asked you to stay this long," Victoria added, voice rising. "This isn't a courtroom. You don't belong here." Eyes turned, conversations paused. A ripple of silence spread. Evelyn didn't move, didn't blink. Behind her, the man who spoke earlier stood again. "She belongs more than most of us," he said. Victoria ignored him. "She's turning this into a charity case. That's not what this night is for." Evelyn's gaze held steady. No reply, no retreat. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to, but something in the room had changed. This time, Victoria wasn't the one in control. Evelyn looked Victoria in the eye. Her voice was low, unshaken. "I'll leave when I'm finished here." No anger, Tete. No heat. Just fact. The room didn't breathe. Victoria opened her mouth, then closed it. Nothing landed. Nothing stuck. Evelyn turned and walked past her, slow, steady. Not defiant, not dramatic, just clear. People stepped aside, not because they were told, but because they felt they should. It wasn't volume that moved the room, it was her presence. Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it walks quietly and doesn't ask permission. Logan watched her go, jaw set, glass still untouched. And in that moment, Evelyn wasn't just reclaiming space, she was redefining who owned it. She was almost at the exit when the mic crackled. "Ms. Monroe," the MC called out, a bit rushed. "If you'd be willing..." "Just a few words before you go." Murmurs stirred, heads turned. Even Logan sat up straighter. Evelyn paused. The same crowd that laughed now leaned in, not mocking, not jeering, just waiting. The MC stepped off stage, gesturing toward the mic. "No pressure, of course," he added, "but it feels wrong to end the night without hearing from you." Silence again, but it wasn't the cold kind this time. Evelyn looked back at the room, at the faces that had shifted, at the tension that had thinned. She didn't move. Not yet. Instead she asked, calm and clear, "Are you ready to listen?" Evelyn nodded once. Simple, final. The MC stepped back, surprised by how quickly the room fell quiet. A single spotlight found her. She walked toward the stage. No rush, no apology. Shoes soft against hardwood, hands by her side, eyes steady. Every face followed her now, not in amusement, in attention. She reached the podium, no notes, no script, just silence, holding, building. Logan leaned forward, glass still full, jaw locked. Evelyn looked at the mic, then at them, and in that stillness something shifted. The air, the balance, the story. They thought the moment belonged to them, but it never did. She took a breath, then she began. Evelyn adjusted the mic. Her voice was soft, but it reached every corner. I once met a boy who stopped speaking, not because he couldn't, because he didn't see the point. She paused, let the words settle. He was 13, brilliant, but fading. His teacher said he was lazy. His father said he was weak. Some heads tilted, some brows lowered. He came to my office once a week. We didn't talk about law. We talked about worth. Another pause. Months passed. He started speaking again. Then he started showing up early. Her eyes scanned the room, calm, measured. That boy graduated with honors. He went on to work in government, to change lives. One heartbeat passed. I never told anyone his name. And I won't now. But somewhere in the crowd, someone had stopped breathing. Logan's hand tightened around his glass. The words echoed back. 13. Silent. Government. He knew that story too well, his brother Miles, the panic, the hospital visits, the nights no one in the family talked about. Evelyn's voice had quieted now, letting the room hold the weight. But Logan was frozen. He remembered the shift. Miles, who couldn't make eye contact, suddenly speaking with confidence, then applying for internships, then law school. Logan had asked once, "What changed?" Miles only said, "She listened." Now Logan knew who she was. He looked up. Evelyn wasn't looking at him. She didn't need to, because the story wasn't about shame. It was about what people carry, and who helps them carry it. And tonight, Logan realized, he owed more than he ever said. Evelyn reached into her bag. No rush, no explanations, just a quiet motion. She unfolded a small, worn envelope. The edges yellowed, ink faded, but clear. I keep very few things, she said. This is one of them. She held it up just enough for the front row to see. A short letter, 3 sentences, a name at the bottom, Logan Wells. Logan stared. He didn't breathe. I never responded, Evelyn continued, but I read it often, especially when people tried to convince me I hadn't made a difference. No accusation, no judgment, only truth. I don't save things for sentiment, she added. I save them for proof. She folded the letter again, placed it gently back in her bag, and looked out at the room, quiet still, held in place by a single piece of paper. No one moved. Glasses sat untouched, forks frozen midair, laughter long gone. Evelyn stood alone on stage. No music, no light show, just her and the silence she'd earned. One woman lowered her eyes. Another man shifted in his chair, suddenly uncomfortable in his suit. Even Victoria said nothing, her mouth pressed tight, her posture cracked. A guest near the back whispered, "She kept the letter?" Another replied, "She kept him." Logan looked down at his hands, now open, empty. Evelyn didn't bask. She didn't smile. She simply looked at them. And what returned were no longer stares of pity or challenge, but recognition. The kind that doesn't clap, doesn't cheer, it just understands. And in that quiet, the room turned, not because she demanded it, but because they knew they were late. Evelyn let the silence settle one last time. Then she spoke, calm, clear, steady. I was invited here tonight, she said, not as a guest, but as a gesture. Some heads dropped. Others stayed fixed on her. But you see, she continued, value doesn't come from invitations. She let that hang. It doesn't come from titles or table placements, or who claps when you walk in. She glanced at Logan, not with bitterness, but with the truth. Value doesn't come from the guest list. She looked out at the crowd. It comes from who you show up for. When no one's looking, when no one's clapping, her voice softened. And I showed up tonight for the same reason I always have. Because people matter. Duh. She stepped back from the mic. No applause yet, just breath held still. Logan stood. No one told him to. No one expected him to. He walked toward the stage, slow and unsure, hands loose, face unreadable. Evelyn stepped aside. She didn't nod, didn't guide, just gave him space. He took the mic, cleared his throat once. I was the one who invited her. The room froze again. I didn't do it with respect. I did it for effect. A beat passed. I thought this night was about status, appearances. I forgot that character outlives reputation. He looked at Evelyn, not hiding now. I owe you an apology, not for tonight, but for every time I stayed silent when I shouldn't have. Then softer to the crowd. And maybe some of you do too. No defense, no excuse, just a start. Logan turned back to the mic, his voice steadier now. Tonight wasn't meant to become this, but maybe it needed to. He looked around the room, at the silence, the weight, the shift. There are people out there. The same kind Evelyn's been fighting for her whole life, who still don't have a voice. He paused. So here's what I propose. A fund, a real one. Accessible, consistent, built in her name. He turned to Evelyn. With her permission. Someone in the crowd spoke up. I'll contribute. Then another. Count me in. It spread, quiet but firm. Evelyn didn't smile. She only said, Don't build it for me. Build it so fewer people need someone like me to save them. And just like that, the room had purpose. Victoria sat motionless. No glare, no whisper, no wine glass in hand, just silence. The applause had faded. The crowd had shifted. But she remained still, eyes fixed on the stage. For the first time that night, she had nothing to say. No clever remark, no quick correction, no control. She looked down at her heels. Perfect, polished. But they felt heavier than ever. A guest beside her offered a nod, subtle, almost kind. Victoria didn't return it. She only lowered her gaze. Not out of shame, but because she'd seen something she couldn't unsee. The room no longer belonged to her. It never did. And in the presence of truth, pretending had no place left to stand. Evelyn stepped down from the stage. No fanfare, no rush, just a quiet steps on polished floor. The doors at the back opened. Cool night air drifted in. She didn't look back, didn't wave, didn't wait. Behind her, the lights in the ballroom dimmed. One row, then another. The shine faded gently, like the end of a performance no one deserved. A few guests stood, unsure why. Not to stop her, just to watch. Logan stayed seated, eyes following her until she disappeared beyond the doors. Outside, the city breathed, steady, unbothered, just like her. She didn't need applause, or closure, only distance, and the knowledge that she left the room different than she found it. Narration, soft and steady. Your value isn't something others give you. It isn't measured by seats at a table or names on a list. A slow cut to the empty ballroom. Chairs pushed back, lights low. Your value doesn't need permission. It lives in how you carry yourself, especially when no one's watching. The camera fades to Evelyn walking alone, coat over her arm, city lights stretching ahead. Live by what you know is true, not what others are willing to recognize. Beat, pause. Then, have you ever been misjudged or some judges? Drop a comment on I've been there or me too. Because your story matters, even if they missed it the first time. Fade to black, nothing more needed.